Transnational, a new series from Vice News, takes a global look at trans rights and resilience.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
We invited two of the show's correspondents to discuss their experiences working on the show and as trans journalists more broadly.
I'm super, super excited for Transnational. What is the mission statement?
How can we make a show that honors trans people in a way that feels very different from kind of typical media? How do we get more trans people both in front of and behind the camera? How do we talk about transness outside of a Western context? Each episode features one trans host where they go to a place and embed with the community and really spend time with them, talk to them about what they're doing. We want there to be kind of like a familiarity and a warmth to these episodes.
Why is a show like this so important right now?
It's Pride Month. No, I'm kidding. I do think that right now we're seeing a kind of like rise in trans media, but I think we're still talking about bodies, we're still talking about surgeries, we're tired of it. And so I think it's important for people to understand a more nuanced perspective, you know, that talks about the ways that people live, the ways that people have to survive, that talks about it from a global perspective. You know, we've seen the fight for Palestine, George Floyd, the things that are happening in Bogota. I think we're starting to understand that the struggle is global. And so the trans struggle is in fact global, and we need to show people that.
Totally. We are in every country, we are from every ethnic group, and we've always been there.
Why do you think it's important? Like, why did you agree to be a part of the show?
I liked the approach that this show was taking. I felt that it was going to kind of be groundbreaking. You know, maybe like 10 years back, there weren't quite as many of us working in media,
right.
Or maybe we just weren't out about it, you know? But now, a lot of us are making our own media, right? I mean, you can go on Instagram and you can see so many trans folks making all types of content, trying to educate the masses.
Right.
I think something like this is going to reach people that a lot of trans content oftentimes doesn't, you know? And
yeah.
I think that's where a big media company really has a vital part to play in how we shift the common narrative, how we avoid these common tropes, and how we really provide a voice to people who have always had one, but just aren't always heard.
You're the host of our first episode in Detroit, which I'm really, really excited about. I would love to hear a little bit about that.
You know, originally I'm from St. Louis, so going back to the Midwest and meeting all of these amazing trans women, like Black and brown trans women, that was super, super life-changing for me. A lot of trans people have been doing this work that we call advocacy, activism, what have you, for literally decades.
Right.
You know, and not all of them are on the cover of magazines.
Exactly.
Not all of them are starring on a show. A lot of them are just right there in their hometown doing the work.
You have a lot of experience with trans journalism for various platforms. I'm very curious, like, did the experience stand out to you?
One thing that always shocked me was how I was able to just say what was on my mind, and I wasn't getting all of this like censorship.
Right.
Oftentimes when there's editors who usually are cis who are editing a trans writer's words or a trans person's video content, there's like the censoring that happens where they're trying to have a certain politic and they're trying to get a certain message out, and they use that trans journalist as the
vehicle almost, right?
Yeah, you know, a lot of stuff I've worked on, I'll see the final cut of it and I'm like, that's not quite what I said, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's something that's hard to call out because, you know, it's very easy to be painted as like the angry trans person, the angry Black trans person, the angry Black trans woman, you know?
You brought up something that, you know, I feel like encapsulates the whole of the show, which is like for us, by us. If we're gonna bring in a trans host, this person's not here to just kind of like flaunt for the camera and essentially like, hey, we checked our box. But in fact, like this person should be helping shape the narrative because I think that is vital to telling the story correctly. I don't know, it feels like people kind of helicopter in and they're like, tell us your story.
Yeah.
And instead of that, we get to be like, hey, you know, like we share some DNA in some way, shape, or form. What's going on here? And I think the best part about being a trans journalist is the fact that we approach things with such like care. I've done a lot of work around non-binary identity, which is like fraught because of people just like not understanding what that means. And I think there's a lot of like, we see a lot of those headlines where it's like Demi Lovato just announced that she's non-binary.
Yes.
And you're like, huh, I'm pretty sure it's they now.
It's they, yeah.
That's what feels most important to me about being a storyteller, is ensuring that we don't kind of continue that cycle.
Right now in media, trans people are seen as one of three things. Either you're a trans woman, a trans man, or somewhere in the middle. And it's this very like kitschy thing.
Yeah.
You know, people say, oh, like either you're a she, her, or he, him, or like a they, them, right? And it's like, huh? One thing I heard Janet Mock once say is gender isn't a spectrum, it is a kaleidoscope. You are able to—
Okay, Janet Mock.
No, she's everything. You know, like, and the way that she said it was, you're able to kind of just pick and choose whatever works for you.
Absolutely.
Right? And yeah, I think people need to think of gender in that sense, especially as it pertains to trans people, especially if they're trying to write about us in media.
Yeah.
You know, like, don't try to rewrite who I am to fit your own narrative or to fit your own understanding of the world, because that totally counteracts the purpose of trans people even being in media. We are meant to shift and change the ways in which people have typically thought about the world.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's always been a part of our history, and it's very much a part of our present.